I'm working on 4 folders, 3 of them flippers, you can see in the sketch. One of them similar to one of the flippers, but with a thumber. I have the 4 blades rough cut out and have started grinding parts of them to shape, which is as far as I'm going to go until I start mounting them in the handles. Here's a sheet of titanium from which I'm cutting the liners, and I have paper patterns that I've cut from those. Here I'm drilling the pivot hole for a 3/16 pivot underside. I'm going to shift to a 3/16 carbide reamer. Make sure the table is nice and clean. It's already been swept, so it's flat and true with the centerline axis. Here I'm transferring the location of the stop pin from the hole that I've already drilled. It's undersized, but it's here in the liner, and I'm transferring it to the blade. You'll see it in just a second when it's done. That's in the open position. I'm going to rotate it around here. The point here lines up with the mark that I've made here from my master drawing. Clamp it. And then I dimple it again with the drill. See that I have 2 spots on the blade, and I'll take that and I'll drill it through, and then I'll open it up for the 1/8 inch diameter stop pin, so that it should be a nice close fit when it's assembled. I drilled and reamed the pivot hole and the stop pin hole for this knife. Transferred the locations for the stop pins on the blade, and I've just got an old pivot sitting in here for a guide for right now. Push that in there so it pivots, and I get down here and just by eyeball I'll line things up and connect the lines. Like that. And I'll rotate it around and put it in the closed position. It's right about where I want it. This knife is a Techno Art, so it'll have a large diameter pivot. Looks like a wheel, so I'm locating that. Taking this location on the choil area, transferring it back here to the handle so that the 2 line up. And swing this around here. And that gives me a starting point for grinding the liners to size. I've laid the liner out and have my shape drawn on there either by scribing around here or just with a Sharpie around here. And I'm going to proceed to start grinding up to my grind lines there, my guide lines. now ground the liner to its approximate finished size. You can see it's really starting to look like a knife. Here's an open position. And then in the closed position. You can see on the liner that goes on the left side of the knife, I've drilled and counterbored the holes for the anchor screws. The holes have been transferred over to the right hand liner, and they've been drilled at the proper size for tapping. Everything's ready, so here I'm going to start tapping them with my tapping head with drill press. And there we go. What I'm doing here is grinding the left-hand liner up to the lines transferred from the other liner that was already the size. I'm merely taking them down so that I can start working on them as a unit. I'm getting ready to counterbore the liners to accept the bearings. You can see that I've marked them so that I know which is which. Put them in my mill. Clamp them in place, and clamping up very close to the hole so that I get no deflection or deformation of the titanium. To a preset depth on my scale up here. Double check it. Just right. Shows 42 thousandths of an inch at the bottom of the hole to the back side of the line. Just what I want. At this point, I'm going to define this flat area behind the raised area, and I'm going to do it with files by hand. They'll have various angles or radiuses or straight lines or whatever on each one, so they're all going to vary a little bit, but I tend to refine that with files. Starting with a coarse file, simply leveling it out. Come in here. I'll put a radius on this one. Then, take my marker and ink it so I can see where I'm grinding. We'll start cutting. Come back with a smoothing file. Round the tail end of it over so that it doesn't catch on anything. Check it and make sure it's straight. Even though I'm going to texture this, I want it pretty clean and true. I've got a final layout on these to their size based on the blades. And I'm now going to work them down to that size while they're bolted together. You can see along the back and the front, I've got them pretty close to my guidelines.
Now go.
I'm cutting tail spacers for the knives out of lightning strike carbon fiber. You can see I've already got some holes drilled here for one of them. I'm laying the left side liner on here with the clearance holes, giving myself plenty of space because I tend to have my tail spacers rise up out of the back. Clamp it in place, and I step over here to the drill press and drill the hole through. Because it's carbon fiber, I'm being careful not to blow the dust all over the place, just down at the floor where I can sweep it up someday. So there you are. Next step, I'll lay them out in like this and saw them out on the bandsaw, and they'll be ready to go. What I'm doing here is turning pivots in the pivot screws. These are the large diameter Techno Art style that I make on a lot of my folders. This is one that's already been turned and threaded from 416 stainless steel. And this is the screw from the other side. On a second operation, I'll take care of the outside of the wheels and turn them in pairs to mount. I'm taking the liners and bolting them together with short screws so they don't protrude out. I'm not putting the tail spacers in there because my tail spacers aren't always flush with the liners. Then I'm going to mount the scales in place so that I can grind them off. It'll mount up pretty much like this. Roughing it in with a 60 grit belt, and then I'll come back and flush it down with a 120.